Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ringside Cinema. I am Money Mike, and this past Saturday at Survivor Series, did the WWE give us a little Easter egg when it comes to what the main events of WrestleMania are going to be? We did see Bron Breakker pin the World Heavyweight Champion CM Punk to win the War Games match. I thought that was the best, probably the best creative thing they did in the entire match. Honestly, they didn't do a whole lot of focus on the storytelling, and so to me, I felt like the best thing they did in that whole match was having Bron Breakker, a future main eventer, a young talent, get the pin on CM Punk. I thought that was the best thing about that War Games match. Now, after that match, Roman Reigns, he was pretty chill with CM Punk. He kind of, dabbed him up. But he wasn't too happy with Cody Rhodes. And we got this little stare down between Roman and Cody at the end of War Games. And I think the WWE was waiting for the fans to pick up on the idea that, oh, hey, this is a potential WrestleMania match. But I think the fans in San Diego were like, no, we don't want this. Because there was footage, fan footage that somebody recorded of the ending of the show, and the fans booed the interaction between Roman and Cody and their little stare down. So, yeah, I'll talk about all the main event possibilities for the men, including how Roman Cody could eventually lead to dream matches at WrestleMania 43 in Saudi Arabia, and I will discuss the women's main event scene, which is going to be chaotic given what we saw at the end of Monday Night Raw. So, how do you divert all these women from the tag team title scene to the main event? Who gets the main event scene, who does not? It's going to be crazy. I'll have that video later on this week. So go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, as I do produce weekly wrestling content here on this channel. Now, let's start with the World Heavyweight Championship, because that's the one that got a twist on Monday night. Because Paul Heyman went to Adam Pearce and said, hey, Bron Breakker pinned CM Punk, therefore he should get a title match, and Adam Pearce agreed. And so the very first episode of Monday Night Raw in 2026, it will be Bron Breakker challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship against CM Punk. R.I.P. Larry. So if you guys don't know, CM Punk was not on Raw last night. He did announce, I think earlier today, his dog Larry passed away. Condolences to CM Punk, AJ Lee. Now, the question here: do you just put the rocket to Bron Breakker on this episode of Monday Night Raw on January 5th and just give him the title going into WrestleMania? Because the precedent from last year, or this year, I'm getting ahead of myself here. This year was Jey Uso had a title match against Gunther at Saturday night's main event, a week before the Royal Rumble, by the way. And then Jey Uso went on to win the Rumble after he lost to Gunther, and then he went on to challenge Gunther again at WrestleMania. So there is precedent where if the WWE is dead set on crowning Bron Breakker at WrestleMania, you could see maybe a Smoz finish here. Maybe Roman Reigns gets involved. Maybe Jay, Jimmy, whatever. They get involved and it ends in a Smoz. Bron Breakker doesn't win the title. Thus, they save Braun to potentially win the Royal Rumble or the Elimination Chamber to get back to CM Punk, i.e., the similar way to what they did with Jey Uso this year. Now, there is also the Tiffany Stratton route, where we saw this year Tiffany Stratton cashed in her Money in the Bank contract, became the women's champion, and went into WrestleMania against Charlotte Flair as the champion. And then we saw Charlotte Flair put Tiffany Stratton over. And I have to say, it's easy to sit here and say Roman Reigns versus Cody 3 or CM Punk versus Bron Breakker, but you also look at the booking currently, and the one match they have avoided, so far. We've seen Roman versus Bronson Reed, but they've not given us Roman versus Bron Breakker. And if you have Bron Breakker win the World Heavyweight title at the first episode of Monday Night Raw of 2026, you could have Roman Reigns then win the Royal Rumble, which I already think Roman Reigns is going to win the Royal Rumble. I think the ideal storyline of Roman choosing between Punk and Cody, I think is the best way to go. Because even before Seth got injured, I think the story of Roman having to choose between either facing Cody Rhodes or Seth Rollins was going to be the best story. Now, obviously, we've seen Roman versus Cody before, right? And obviously, based on the fan reaction, I don't think fans are not too keen on seeing it again. So if Roman Reigns does win the Royal Rumble, and his choices are now Cody Rhodes and, say, a newly crowned Bron Breakker, do you follow the booking of Tiffany Stratton, but with Bron Breakker, where Bron Breakker wins the world title from CM Punk on that very first episode of Raw? Roman Reigns goes on to win the Royal Rumble. He faced Bron Breakker, is up against a main eventer, a former world champion. It was the same exact booking that we saw with Tiffany and Charlotte, but you have Bron Breakker go over Roman Reigns, and you have Roman put over Bron Breakker, say in the night one main event, or if you want to do night two, that's probably be even better, because then that would then cement Bron Breakker as the top guy, having Bron Breakker close out the show, close out your two-night WrestleMania by beating Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chief, the guy who's been the guy for the last 5 years. So there is that precedent that they could use, or they could change it up with Bron Breakker winning on that first episode of Raw, Roman Reigns winning the Rumble, and then they've given us Roman versus Bron Breakker at WrestleMania, opposed to Roman versus Punk or Roman versus Cody. Now, the other thing here is, what if, again, a Smosh finish happens and you just run back Breakker and Punk at WrestleMania? Sure, you could do that, but again, I do think, why not just go ahead and crown him on that first episode of Raw of the new year and cement him as the next top guy right from the start? Let's talk about the WWE Championship, because that changes a lot in terms of what happens on that episode of Monday Night Raw. So if we go off of Survivor Series, okay? Survivor Series, the end of Survivor Series, we get Roman Cody 30. Do people want to see it? Probably not. I think the WWE might have waited too long to do that match, even though there is intrigue there, right? There is intrigue to where Cody doesn't have the Avengers, Roman doesn't have the bloodline. We could finally see who the better man is. But the idea behind Roman and Cody 3 would, I feel like, to me, would be setting up something bigger. Setting up potentially a dream match scenario for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 43, where the winner of Roman Cody would then take that title into WrestleMania 43 against The Rock. There's been reports about Saudi Arabia wanting to get The Rock for that show. They want The Rock to wrestle on the show. I think, to me, that's probably going to be the case. And I think the matches people want to see are Rock and Roman, Rock and Cody, and what better way to do it than have the WWE Championship on the line? So the idea behind Roman Cody 3 at this year's Mania or next year's Mania is basically whoever wins that match would then get confronted by The Rock to close out the show, to be the teaser for the next year's WrestleMania. That's my idea of why the WWE would do that match. But let's flip it here. Let's say what happens if Bron Breakker beats CM Punk. And he's a World Heavyweight Champion. And Roman Reigns says, hey, I want Bron Breakker because I still don't like the vision. Then who does Cody Rhodes face? Well, where is the Elimination Chamber? Chicago. In the match the WWE has been teasing for the last 2 years, Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk. And you have CM Punk, who, after Roman Reigns picks Bron Breakker to as his WrestleMania opponent, after winning the Royal Rumble, CM Punk would then have to go into Elimination Chamber to get a match against Cody Rhodes, and then we would finally get to see CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes after 2 years of teasing us. They've had back-to-back years of promos between Cody and Punk before the Royal Rumble. We've seen it teased. I think the fans would rather see Punk versus Cody rather than Cody versus Roman 3 because it does give us a new, fresh matchup for the WrestleMania main event scene. And this could be your night 2 closer. Again, you could have Roman versus Bron Breakker close out night 1, or you could have Punk and Cody close out night 1 if you really want Bron Breakker to close out night 2 by beating Roman Reigns. So yeah, is the men's main event scene for WrestleMania set in stone? Are we looking at those being the main events for WrestleMania? Because I feel like, to me, it's some kind of combination of those matches that I've talked about in terms of that's what we could expect at WrestleMania. It just really depends on what the WWE wants to do on that first episode of Monday Night Raw, and in that match between Bron Breakker and CM Punk. And honestly, after that promo by Bron Breakker on Raw, put the rocket to him. Just go full on forward. I think that's the biggest mistake they made, was not giving Breakker the title right off the bat, right after taking Seth Rollins out. That was a huge mistake. I think they can rectify it by having him beat Punk on that first episode of Raw. And I think I'm leaning more towards those being your WrestleMania matches now. The more I talk about it, the more I'm leaning more towards that being your WrestleMania main events for the men's side. Roman Reigns versus Bron Breakker, and CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship. Let me know in the comments below, guys. What do you want to see in the main event of WrestleMania? Do you want to see Breakker versus Roman, Punk versus Cody, or do you want to see Roman Cody 3, Breakker versus Punk again? Let me know in the comments below, guys. And again, I will talk about the women's main event scene later on this week. And as we got a lot more news to talk about on this channel. So I've been your host, Money Mike, and you've been watching Ringside Cinema.